Deanya, I have $1 million question for you that I hear all the time. You ready?
Yep.
How much should I spend on marketing, Deanya? How much
Oh man,
should I
I get this
spend?
all the time too.
Yeah.
Well, here's a good rule of thumb. For businesses that are trying to maintain growth, a good range is 5 to 10% of your revenue. So that means, at the beginning of the year or whenever you're planning your budget, then you should look at your revenue, set aside 5 to 10% of that to invest towards marketing if you're trying to maintain. Now, if you're trying to grow, then you're going to have to plan to invest more. So you need to set aside 10 to 20% of your revenue if you're trying to grow aggressively, or if you're a new business, especially if you're a new business, because you
Mhm.
most likely don't have anything when it comes to, what you need for branding and marketing and things like that. So for new and aggressively expanding businesses, then you should set aside 10 to 20% of that revenue. So that's a good rule of thumb when it comes to trying to figure out how much you should budget this year or moving forward with your marketing and branding services.
Right. And that's always such a hard question because if I sit down with a prospect, if I say, "What is your marketing budget?" th- that feels like a bad question. It's like, well, okay, if I tell David it's $1,000, but he could have done it for $800, now I'm getting taken for $200 a month.
Yeah.
Even though that's not really how it happens, it's like, but you feel that way. It's like
Yeah.
if somebody came to my house and they're like, "How much do you want to pay to have your yard cut?" And I'm like, "Well, how much do you charge?" It's like you don't want to be the guy that throws out the first number. That's what
Yeah.
that feels like.
Yeah.
So it's good to have these percentage ranges because then you can look at it and you can say, all right, what's reasonable for me to look at? Because this is how we set expectations.
Hmm.
If you come in and you're like, I'm expecting to pay 5% of my revenue, but I want to get results like I'm spending 20% of my revenue, and that doesn't work. It
Yeah.
doesn't work.
That is so
So
true. I get that a lot, where we may have people that come in and they want to, spend a lower amount, but they want to do so much with that. And it's like you can't expect to have this tremendous growth when you don't have the money invested in it to achieve those results, because there's so much you need to do, which goes back to your strategy.
mhm,
What is it that we need to do? So you could possibly be on the side of, okay, we really need to aggressively expand our business this year. We really want to put some revenue, or some dollars towards our marketing and branding services. And you can be on the side of spending 20%. But if you don't have a strategy in place, and if you haven't thought about that and really audited yourself, you could take that money and invest it in the wrong parts of marketing. So you could be one of those people, for example, you could say, oh, we're going to do a $10,000 print job on flyers. Now, printing is very expensive sometimes, depending on what you're getting printed. And you could say, we're going to take these flyers and we're going to put them all over the neighborhood. Well, that's $10,000 that you spent on flyers. And you may say, okay, on that flyer, it has information about your website, and the website is not good.
it's janky.
It sucks. So, like,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, you
you got
don't
all
want
these
that.
people going to this website, and it's like you spent all of that money in the wrong spot. You should have
Mhm,
put $10,000 toward that website where the entire world can look at, the digital storefront of your
mhm,
business. that properly tells who you are and what your services are and all of the information that everybody is asking about your business on the website. But you invested that money in flyers that have most people are probably going to throw away.
Mhm.
And it's pointing to something that doesn't work. So you have to really sit and think about the best strategy when it comes to where do you put that money. So first, how much of the money, how much of your budget are you investing in marketing, and then what part of it,
Mhm.
do you need to invest in your website, do you need to invest in your social media presence, how is your branding overall, is it consistent, do you need to work on that? You could put ad dollars, you can invest in ad dollars, but if the designs and the quality and the consistency isn't there, you're not going to get a good return on your investment. So you really need to sit and think about what's the most effective way um, to invest your money.
Mhm. Yeah, I always like to have people think about it from the real world physical aspect. Like, you don't see people starting a business, you don't see them doing anything until the building is just right, the employees are trained, the parking lot is clean, the window lettering is done. It's like everything's perfectly done and ready. Then they start advertising. If they do
Mhm,
any advertising beforehand, it's coming soon, right? You
mhm,
don't want people to actually come in the door yet. You just want people to know it's coming.
mhm,
So there's certainly a lot of value in doing that type of advertising, but you don't want, to your point, you don't want people coming to your digital location and then seeing the parking lot's nasty, the front's terrible, the windows are busted out, nothing works right, whatever the case might be. And the sad thing about it sometimes is that sometimes beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
mhm, mhm.
And some websites people don't realize they're not good,
Yeah.
if we're talking about websites. And sometimes even when we're talking about marketing, because some people try to do their own marketing, some people do it well, and some people don't.
Mhm.
Uh, it's hard to see sometimes how bad your own stuff is.
Yeah, that is so true. That's why it's good to really speak with someone that's a professional, because when you're professionally trained in these areas and you have the experience, then it's not about your opinion. It's not about the designer's opinion. It's not about the client, like the ones we're working with,
Mhm.
or the business owner's opinion. It's about your audience's opinion. That's whose opinion matters. So you can like have a logo or whatever visual brand that you're creating, and you might say, "Ooh, I love purple. Purple is my favorite. I want to use purple." But the audience that you're going after hates purple. Why would
Mhm.
you use purple when that audience doesn't like purple? And that's just an example. So, but a professional would think about that. They would think about, what industry are you in? Who's your target audience? And what's the demographic that you're trying to hit up? Is it an older demographic? Is it a younger demographic? What kind of images should we be using? And so that's how we determine what direction you need to go. So you have a lot of people that are so proud that they spent like $500 on their website. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I could
It
tell.
looks like it.
I could
Yeah,
tell.
it does. So in the vein of the question, which is how much should I spend, let's move away from the money conversation and let's talk about the time conversation.
Mm,
Because sometimes, well, you're going to pay either way. Like, you got to pay with money or you got to pay with time.
yep.
You can certainly pay less money if you're willing to pay with time.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just starting out, oftentimes that's what you do. It's like, I don't have a marketing budget. I don't have a way to do any of these things you're telling me, Deanya. The only thing I can spend is my time.
Yep.
Now, hopefully what happens is as your business grows, you shift from spending your time to spending your money so that you're buying back your time to
Yeah.
use it more in the business. Nothing confuses me more than when you have a business that's doing well and you've got a very expensive employee or owner that's spending time doing marketing when they could make 10 times that amount of money spending their time doing their business.
Yep. Yep. That is so true. I see that a lot, you know, and I think it's because sometimes it can be hard to shift from that mindset, to shift from the startup business mindset to the we're doing well mindset. Because, like you said, starting out, you got to do what you got to do. So, you
Hmm.
might build your own website. You might go buy the cheap $500 website or use whatever tools that are at your disposal, you know, to do what you need to do. But at some point, you need to shift and invest in professional services so that you can focus on your business. And I think people are having a hard time shifting sometimes, and they aren't thinking about the fact that you are spending so much time trying to do your own marketing that's probably not the best because that is not your area of expertise. So if you
Hmm.
are a doctor or a lawyer, you have an expertise and you're an expert in that area, but you're not a designer. And so what you're doing may have gotten you to a certain point, but it's not going to get you past that point because now you need to be doing competitor analysis. Do you know how to do that? You need to be doing a brand strategy. Do you know how to do that? You need to
Hmm.
be, you know, doing personas. Do you know how to do that? You need to be doing all of these things to really evaluate how can we get beyond this point. So you have to shift at some point to say, you know what, it's time to invest in professional services.
Yeah. I mean, you can talk about that in any industry. Let's take, we'll take healthcare for an example. Like I can do somewhat my own healthcare, right?
Mhm.
Okay. If I know that I'm not feeling well, I can go and do Tylenol,
Mhm.
right? Or I can get some Aleve or whatever. So I'm kind of taking care of some of my lower level healthcare. And in some
Mhm.
cases, you might do stuff even more high level of your healthcare. But at
Mhm.
some point, it's like you need a professional to help you
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
You can say the same for like being an attorney. Like I could probably draft some kind of contract. Might not be great, but I can draft a contract.
Mhm.
Um, I can do my own bookkeeping. I can do my own accounting if I wanted to. But does it make sense for me to do any of that? Will I get
Mhm.
a better end product, a better result if I pay a professional to do it? And does it make
Mhm.
sense for me to even spend my time doing it, regardless of how good I might be at it? Does it make sense to do it? If you're making, let's say you're a professional and you can bring $100 an hour in your business, why would you not pay somebody else less than that so that you can make $100 an hour in your business?
Yeah, that is so true. And speaking about time, the amount of time that you have available to spend versus the professional who does this all day long.
Mhm.
So you're taking your 1 or 2 hours a day or however many hours that you have, that's very limited a week because you have to run your business. Why not go ahead and hire the professional who does this all day long? They look at this day in, day out. They're more experienced, they're more on guard, and more capable of accomplishing the things that you need to accomplish simply because they have more time to deal with it and you
Mhm.
don't. So you have to take that into consideration. And also circling back around to the budget, when you take that into consideration, it kind of gives an explanation why what you're investing begins to bump up a little bit because you may say, "Oh, I did my website for $500." Well, you didn't audit the speed of the site. You didn't look at the security on the site. You didn't look at the user experience on the site. You didn't do any kind of SEO analysis on the site. You haven't done any of that. Now, if you're hiring a professional who is taking the time to do that and they're looking at this all day long every day, then that explains why it's not $500 because they've
Mhm.
spent way more than $500 in hours alone doing the things that you didn't even think about doing. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to marketing, it's like many other things in life. It has to be nourished and taken care of and looked at all the time because especially when you start getting into like social media, even in websites, like things change.
Mhm.
What search engines are looking for changes, what algorithms are looking for changes, what your audience is looking for
Mhm.
changes. And so there's no such thing as a set it and forget it, whether it's websites, whether it's social media, even print. I mean, look at
Mhm.
what print is now compared to what it was a decade ago.
Yep.
or go back as far as you want. Everything constantly changes. And so you
Mhm.
have to constantly have a a person or a company that's going to look at that for you. And that's why hiring an agency to me makes so much sense. And because you're getting the entire team.
A whole
So
team.
even if I pay you $1,000 a month, I'm getting like 6, 7, 10, 15 people, whatever, working on my stuff. I can't even hire one of those for
Yep.
that price.
Yep. Yep. That is the logic that people are that I see that people aren't thinking about. They're not using that logic. It's like you have a whole team, and even if you hired one person, it's just one person versus an entire team that comes with an agency. So you have multiple eyes looking at your projects, from different angles, and they have within the agency, they have their different expertise in their own individual spaces, from the web developer to the graphic designer to the SEO specialist to the social media manager. So they have all of these different special skills, whereas you might hire one person who is a graphic designer, might be the bomb graphic designer, but doesn't know anything about social media management, doesn't know anything about SEO, doesn't know anything about, web development or anything like that, but you
Mhm.
got a great graphic designer. So, you have to consider all of those things when you are shopping and thinking about who you want to work with, when you're thinking about how much you're spending and why they're charging you what they're charging you. Really need to consider, what exactly is it that we're paying for? Are we paying for a team of people? What areas of expertise are they, do they specialize in
Mhm.
compared to what you've been doing? Is it worth it?
Yeah. And I think this is where Pixel 13 can do its best work oftentimes is when there's an organization that has a marketing director or a marketing person, and they just know they can't do everything that marketing involves. They're
Mhm,
good at this one skill set or two skill sets, but we can come in and back them up
mhm,
with all the other resources that they don't have and other skills they don't have
mhm.
so that they have a more well-rounded marketing department, even though there's just one person being the director of marketing for that practice. So that's
Yeah.
also a very good way to engage with Pixel 13. But as we wrap up here, Danya, anything else that you want to say about how much somebody should spend on their marketing?
I think the last thing is just, make it a priority. Just as you prioritize how much your building is going to cost and your electricity and your water and all of the other things,
Mhm.
make it a priority and determine how much are you going to invest this year based off of your expectation. Are you trying to maintain or are you trying to expand? So again, 5 to 10% of your revenue if you're trying to maintain, 10 to 20% if you're trying to expand and grow, and if you're a new business. So have realistic expectations and make it a priority to really think about that and set a budget for it, because without it, if no one knows you're there, no one is coming to your business, no one is, going to purchase your services because they don't know you're there, so it's worth making it a priority.
Yeah. And just as a pro tip, as we wrap up, marketing is a long term game. So if you think you're going to do it for a month and get results, probably not.
No.
Um, 3 months, maybe, but 6 months or longer is usually what it takes to start seeing results. So make sure you have that expectation aligned with the goals that you have. It is a long term game,
Yeah.
and it has to be played that way. So
Mhm.
there you have it, folks. Join us again next time when we talk more about how to get the best bang for your buck in digital marketing.
Yep. Hi.